No one walked near the chamber. Even the bravest alien warriors refused to pass through the silver corridor that led to it. Lights flickered softly, and a strange hum came from inside, like the sound of a sleeping storm. The chamber belonged to the alien Queen Violia, a name that still made soldiers stiffen in fear. Her room had been sealed for over 10 years. No one dared open it. Some said she was dangerous. Others believed she had powers that could melt the mind. The truth? No one really knew. Orders were simple: stay away. Then a human arrived. His name was Callan, a mechanic, not a soldier. He wore a brown work uniform stained with oil and dust. He didn't look like much. But Callan had done something special. During a battle between human forces and the alien alliance, he had saved an entire outpost from destruction. As a reward, he was invited aboard the capital ship, the Star Throne. It was a huge alien vessel, more like a flying city than a ship. Sharp towers rose from its surface. Blue energy fields buzzed across its walls. The crew was a mix of alien races, tall ones with metal limbs, quiet ones with glowing eyes, and nervous ones who always checked their scanners twice. Callan was given a small room, a tour, and access to the engineering bay. He was curious, respectful, and careful not to offend anyone, but he was also a human, curious by nature. On the 4th day, while checking power flows in the central deck, he noticed something odd. A signal. Faint. Ancient. Hidden. It came from a sealed hallway that wasn't marked on his map. The signal pulse was soft, almost like a heartbeat. It didn't match any known code or system. Callan frowned. "That's strange," he muttered. His scanner couldn't read the walls in that area. All data came back blank. He looked around. No one else noticed. Or maybe no one wanted to. The aliens working nearby avoided eye contact. Some even turned their backs when he looked at the hallway. Callan decided to check it out. He followed the signal. As he walked down the silver corridor, the air grew colder. Lights dimmed. His boots echoed on the floor. There were no guards, no warning signs, no locked doors. At the end of the hallway stood a large metallic door, smooth and curved like it had been grown, not built. It shimmered with a pale light, and strange symbols flowed across it like liquid. His hand reached out almost without thinking. Suddenly a voice spoke behind him. "You should not be here." Callan turned quickly. It was a young alien officer, her face sharp and blue with golden tattoos on her forehead. She looked nervous, her hand close to a control device on her belt. "I didn't know," Callan replied calmly. "I was tracking a signal. This place." He nodded at the door. "It's not even listed on the ship's internal map." "It's forbidden," the officer said. Her voice was firm, but not angry. "You must go back, now." Callan looked at the door again. "Why is it forbidden?" The officer hesitated. "No one enters. Not even the High Council. That door leads to her." Callan blinked. Her? The Queen. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then the officer took a step back. "I warned you," she said quietly. "If you stay here, the ship may not protect you." Then she turned and walked away. Callan stood there, heart pounding. Something inside the chamber called to him. Not in words, not in sound, but something deeper. He had felt fear before. He had seen war, explosions, wounds, even death. But this was different. This was mystery. And he couldn't walk away. He stepped forward. The door pulsed. The symbols brightened. "Access denied," a mechanical voice said. Callan raised his scanner, tried to connect with the panel, but it rejected him. Still, he noticed something odd. There was no alarm. No security response. The system didn't treat him as a threat. He placed his hand flat on the center of the door. The surface glowed. Suddenly, the chamber opened with a soft hiss. A wave of warm, scented air touched his face. It smelled like flowers and fire. Sweet, but sharp. He stepped inside. The room was large and round, filled with soft, glowing crystals. Strange shapes floated in the air, thin lines of energy, slowly moving like they were alive. The walls were smooth and curved, like the inside of a giant seashell, and in the center she floated the alien queen, Viola. Her body was surrounded by a cocoon of light. She had soft, pale skin with a hint of lavender. Her eyes were closed. Her silver hair flowed around her like smoke in water. She wore a long gown made of living threads, slowly shifting colors. She looked peaceful. Callan didn't speak. He just stood there, stunned. As he watched, her eyes suddenly opened, golden, deep, ancient. They locked onto his. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the queen whispered in perfect human language, "A human here?" Her voice was soft, almost a breath, but it echoed in the room. Callan swallowed. "I didn't mean to intrude. I just followed a signal." "You were not stopped," she said. "Strange. I thought the chamber was locked." "It was," she said, now fully awake. "Until you came." A light pulsed through the room. The crystals changed color. "You are not like the others," the queen said slowly. "You walked into a place where no alien has dared for years. Tell me, human, why?" Callan took a breath. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe I was curious. Maybe it's because I don't believe in fear without reason." The queen tilted her head, studying him. "No reason?" she said, a smile almost touching her lips. "Then you are either foolish or something this galaxy hasn't seen in a long time." She lowered herself gently onto the floor. The light faded. The room felt warmer now, calmer. "Come closer," she said. "Let us see what you really are." Callan hesitated, then stepped forward. He had just crossed a line no one ever had, and nothing in the galaxy would be the same again. Callan stepped forward carefully. The alien queen, Viola, stood with perfect posture. Her silver hair shimmered under the soft light of the glowing chamber. Her long dress moved like it was alive, responding to her breath. She didn't look angry. In fact, her expression showed more curiosity than anything else. "You are not afraid of me," she said. Callan stopped a few feet away from her. "Should I be?" Viola tilted her head slightly. "Every species on this ship avoids this room. My own people sealed me here. Some said I was dangerous, others feared what I might do if I woke up. I'm not like them," Callan replied. "No," she said, walking slowly around him, her steps silent. "You are different. You entered without a weapon, without fear, and without permission." "I followed a signal," Callan explained. "It felt like something was calling." Viola smiled. Perhaps something was. She stopped and faced him again. "How long has it been?" she asked herself, looking at her hands. "They told me I would sleep for 5 years. 10 at most. But I sense more time has passed." Callan nodded. "According to the logs, it's been 12 years since your chamber was sealed." The queen's smile faded. 12 years, she repeated softly. "They promised to wake me sooner." Callan didn't know what to say. He wasn't a leader or a diplomat. He was just an engineer who wandered too far. But something about the queen made him want to stay and listen. "Why did they lock you away?" he asked. Viola looked up at the ceiling. Strange symbols flickered across the curved surface, reacting to her presence. "My people were at war," she said. "Different houses, different visions. I tried to keep peace, but not all wanted peace. The council feared I would pick a side, so they chose silence." "They feared your power?" Callan asked. "They feared my decision," she answered. "Because I would not choose power. I would have chosen truth." Callan noticed her voice had strength now. Not loud, but firm, steady, and clear. She had been a queen once, and it still showed. "You said I was different," he asked. "What did you mean?" Viola looked at him again, this time with deeper interest. "This chamber," she said, "was built long before I was born. It responds only to those with a certain energy, a certain nature. My people call it the old code. It's not in your blood, but in your choices. This room does not open for those who seek control. Callan raised an eyebrow. So why did it open for me? Because you're honest, she said. Because you came not to take, but to understand. Callan wasn't sure what to say. He had always believed in doing the right thing, even when no one was watching. But he never thought it would matter to an alien queen sealed in a glowing. Rumvelia walked toward the center of the chamber again. A platform rose from the floor, smooth glowing and shaped like a flower. She stepped onto it. Light surrounded her once more, but this time, it didn't hide her. It simply followed her like a crown. The council will not be pleased, she said. With me? Callan asked. With both of us. Callan stepped beside her, still cautious. Then maybe we shouldn't let them know yet. Viola smiled again. You think like a shadow walker. I think like someone who doesn't want to get thrown off a ship. She laughed gently, the sound echoing like wind chimes. Tell me, she asked, what is happening out there? What state is the galaxy in? Callan leaned against one of the crystal columns. It's quiet. For now. After the war, humans joined the Alliance, but not everyone trusts us. Some see us as tools, some see us as threats. But we've proven useful, and that's bought time. Valia nodded. And peace? Not real peace, he said. Just tired armies and cold politics. The Queen closed her eyes. Then I must return. You sure that's a good idea? She opened her eyes slowly. I don't know, but I won't hide forever. A queen who never walks among her people is just a memory. She stepped down from the platform. I will need help. Callan looked surprised. Help? From me? You entered this room. That alone makes you part of something rare. I trust you. No one's ever said that to me before, Callan admitted. You have a quiet strength, Callan, and I sense that your voice carries no lies. He rubbed the back of his neck. Well, I've been called stubborn. That too, she said. Suddenly the lights shifted. A soft alarm echoed through the walls. Someone had detected movement in the sealed corridor. They know I'm awake, Valia said quietly. I can get us out, Callan replied quickly. I've mapped most of the hidden access tunnels during maintenance work. There's a cargo lift 2 levels down. It's rarely used. Then lead the way, she said. The chamber door opened again as the Queen followed the human out. For the first time in 12 years, her feet touched the metal floor of her own ship. They moved swiftly through silent halls. Callan kept checking corners, watching for cameras, leading her through service routes and dark corners. Valia moved with surprising grace, even in her ceremonial gown. They reached a lift. It opened with a soft hum, but before they could enter, footsteps echoed from behind. A patrol. 2 alien guards stood at the end of the hallway. Their eyes widened when they saw her. One of them raised a hand to signal for backup. Valia stepped forward before Callan could react. Do not call them, she said calmly. The guards froze. Her voice had power. I am not your enemy, she said. I have returned, not to rule, but to speak. The younger guard slowly lowered his communicator. He looked unsure. You are the Queen, he said. Yes, and this human is with me. Callan stood straight. The guards looked at him, confused, but said nothing. After a long pause, the older guard gave a respectful bow. Then we did not see you, he said. The guards turned and walked away. Callan exhaled. That was close. You inspire loyalty, Valia said softly. No, Callan replied. You do. The lift closed behind them. As it moved down, Callan finally realized something. This was no longer just a strange accident. This was the beginning of something much bigger. The old cargo lift hummed quietly as it descended through the hidden parts of the alien capital ship. Its walls were lined with old panels and forgotten controls. Dust clung to the corners. Few had used this route in years. Callan stood beside, Queen Valia still trying to believe what was happening. Just yesterday, he had been fixing damaged power circuits. Now he was helping the most feared and powerful alien queen sneak through her own ship. Viola stood tall and calm, but her golden eyes scanned every inch of the space around her. She did not speak for a while, deep in thought. "Where does this lift take us?" she finally asked. "To the lower storage deck," Callan replied. "It's quiet down there. We'll be able to move around without being seen. After that, I can take you to the engineering bay. There are back doors into the main ship network." Valia nodded slowly. "You've explored this ship more than most of my own officers." Callan smiled a little. "Engineers see things others don't. Pipes, tunnels, cables, all the stuff hidden behind walls." "I see," she said thoughtfully. "And now, you see me." The lift stopped. The doors opened with a faint hiss. The hallway ahead was dark. Only small blue lights blinked from the floor. Callan stepped out first, scanning the area. All clear. He signaled for her to follow. They moved silently. The queen's soft robes made no sound as she walked. Her presence brought an odd sense of calm even here in the shadows. As they turned a corner, Callan spoke again. "Can I ask something?" "You already have," Valia replied with a hint of a smile. "But yes. Why did your people seal you away? I mean, really?" Valia stopped and looked at him. The lights behind her gave her a soft glow, almost like a halo. "There was fear," she said quietly. "I tried to unite the warring houses. I wanted peace without blood. But the High Lords believed I was too soft. They thought I would choose diplomacy over dominance. To them, that was weakness." "And they locked you up for that?" Callan frowned. "They said it was for safety. That if I stayed silent, they could keep balance. But balance built on fear is not peace. It is only delay." Callan shook his head. "That's not leadership, that's control." She looked at him surprised. "You understand that better than many leaders do." "I've seen enough to know the difference," he said. "Even humans make that mistake sometimes." Valia studied him, eyes narrowing just a little. "You don't speak like a soldier." "I'm not," he said. "Just an engineer." "No," she corrected him softly. "Not just anything." They continued moving. As they reached the edge of the storage deck, Callan stopped and placed his hand on a control panel. A hidden door opened. Behind it was a narrow maintenance tunnel, dark but safe. "This way," he said. They crawled through the tunnel for a few minutes until it opened into a small chamber filled with monitors, cables, and control nodes. Callan had set it up as a private work zone, his thinking place, as he called it. Valia looked around. "You built this?" "Mostly. It's quiet here. I use it to test old systems or keep away from politics." She nodded approvingly. "A place of truth." He powered up the console. Old lights blinked to life. The screen glowed with ship schematics and control signals. "I can access most of the systems from here," he said. "If we're lucky, no one's noticed your chamber fully opened yet. The hallway scanner was old tech. The alert might have gone to a low-priority queue." Viola touched a monitor. Her fingers were elegant and sure, like she once knew this ship better than anyone. "I want to speak to the crew," she said. Callan turned to her. "That's a big risk." "I've slept too long," she replied. "Letting others speak in my place was the first mistake. If I stay silent now, I'll vanish again." Callan hesitated. "Okay, but not yet. Let me clear the paths first." She nodded in agreement. He worked fast, rerouting signals and disabling camera feeds in certain sections. As he did, he spoke again. "There's one more thing I don't get," he said. "Your chamber. You said it only opens for those with the right energy. Why would it let a human in?" Valia stepped closer, her gaze steady. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I felt something when you entered. The energy of the room shifted. The crystals sang." "They sang?" "In our culture," she explained, "the chamber crystals respond to intention. When I entered years ago, they mourned. When you entered, they welcomed." Callan blinked. That's a lot for someone who just wanted to fix a power surge. Valia smiled. Perhaps your visit was never about fixing wires. He paused, then added, maybe your people need someone from the outside to remind them who you really are. They don't need me, she said softly. They need hope and truth. A sharp beep from the console interrupted them. Callan leaned in. Movement near the medical bay. A group of guards. They're searching decks. They'll find us. Soon, she said. Then we move now, Callan replied. He packed a small toolkit and handed her a folded cloak from the storage chest. Put this on. It'll hide your gown. Makes you look like one of the tech staff. Valia raised an eyebrow but accepted it. As she wrapped the cloak around herself, she looked less like a queen, and more like someone walking between two worlds. They left the room and moved again, this time toward the central command lines. On the way they passed a large window. Outside, the stars shimmered in quiet beauty. Valia stopped for a second and looked out. I once believed I could unite all of this, she whispered. That the stars would look brighter if we stood together. Callan stood beside her. They still can, he said. She looked at him. Why do you care? She asked softly. You're not one of my people. I don't have to be, Callan said. I care because I believe the right people should be free to lead. And because someone has to. Valia stared at him for a moment, then smiled. Truly smiled. You are strange, human, she said. But I'm glad you entered my chamber. Callan chuckled. So am I, even if it gets me thrown into space later. As they continued walking, both knew the path ahead was dangerous. But for the first time in years, the Queen wasn't alone, and the human wasn't just a visitor. He was part of something bigger now. The central command deck was alive with quiet tension. Officers moved between control panels, whispering to each other, watching the radar screens. Something was wrong, but no one wanted to speak too loudly. Everyone had heard the rumor. The Queen was awake, and she was not in her chamber. Commander Thorell, a tall alien with silver markings across his forehead, paced slowly in front of the main screen. His jaw was tight, and his eyes stayed fixed on the crew members. No visuals yet, one officer reported, but motion sensors confirmed two figures moving through lower decks. One matches the Queen's old energy pattern, the other, human. Thorell clenched his fists. A human? He repeated. Yes, sir. One of the maintenance staff. His name is Callan. Thorell frowned. Get me his file, and alert the council. Far below the command deck, Callan and Queen Valia moved through a quiet hallway lined with old storage rooms. Her cloak hid most of her gown, and her steps were confident now. But Callan noticed something in her eyes. Focus, but also sadness. He tried to lighten the mood. Do you miss it? He asked. Miss what? Being queen, sitting on a throne, giving orders, all the serious faces around you. Valia gave him a sideways glance. That was never the part I cared about. The crown is heavy not because it shines, but because of what it must carry. Fair point, Callan said. They stopped near a control panel. Callan opened it and began rewiring a connection. If I link this, he said, we can send a message directly to the ship's communication ring. It won't go to the council, it'll go to the crew. Everyone, all at once. Valia nodded. Then it must be said carefully. She placed her hand on the panel and the screen lit up with a soft hum. A recording device rose from the center. I'm ready, she said. Callan stepped back. The device began to blink. A small red light showed it was recording. Valia stood straight. Her voice was clear, calm, and filled with quiet strength. To the crew of the Star Throne, I am Valia, your queen. 12 years ago I was placed in stasis, not by enemies but by fear. I awaken now not to claim power, but to speak truth. We once dreamed of peace, of unity, of something better than endless war. But fear turned hope into silence. I have walked your ship today, not with guards or weapons, but beside a human who chose to help instead of run. Let that be a message, not just from me, but from the future we still can build." The message ended. The light stopped blinking. Callan looked at her, impressed. "That was good." "Was it?" she asked quietly. "I think it was more than good," he said. "It was real." Suddenly, a warning signal buzzed on the panel. "Uh-oh," Callan said. "They traced us. How long do we have?" "Maybe 2 minutes, if that." Valia didn't move. "Then I should not run anymore." "You sure?" "Yes," she said. "If I keep hiding, they win. And if they take me by force, they'll expose their fear to everyone." Callan thought fast. "Then we stand here. But we don't stand alone." He pressed a hidden button. A secondary signal went out. This one to the engineering crew, the people who worked behind the walls, the ones who listened to rumors, the ones who liked Callan. Within moments, 3 engineers arrived. They weren't soldiers. They carried no weapons. But when they saw Valia standing calmly beside Callan, none of them turned away. "She's really awake," whispered one. "And she's not what they said," added another. Callan looked at them. "Will you stand with her?" They nodded. No questions, no doubts. Moments later, heavy boots echoed through the hallway. The guards arrived. 5 soldiers, fully armored. At their front stood Commander Thorell, his eyes locked onto Valia. "You will return to your chamber," he said coldly. Valia stepped forward. "No." The soldiers raised their weapons, but Thorell lifted a hand. "I said return," he repeated. "And I said no," she answered. "I am your queen. You sealed me for peace, but that peace is false. Let your fear end here." "You walk with a human," Thorell said with disgust. "And yet it was a human who showed me honor," she replied. The engineers stood in front of her. Callan stood between them and the guards. "You want to fire?" Callan asked calmly. "You'll have to shoot unarmed crew." Thorell's jaw tightened. He could feel eyes watching. Cameras. Open lines. The message had already gone out. He couldn't hide it anymore. "You've made a mistake," he said to her. "No," Valia said. "I've made a choice." Behind them, more people arrived. Not warriors, but workers, tech staff, and navigators. They came without orders. They came because they wanted to see for themselves, and when they saw her, they didn't see danger. They saw a leader. Thorell gave one last look, then turned. "Let the council decide," he said, "but do not expect mercy." He walked away with his guards. Valia looked at Callan. "That could have gone worse. Could have gone better too," he said, grinning. "But you got their attention." She nodded. "Now I must speak to the council." Callan's smile faded. "That won't be easy." "It shouldn't be," she replied. "Truth never is." The workers helped escort her toward the main chamber. No chains, no fear. And Callan followed beside her, the only human who had ever walked through the Queen's chamber and into the heart of alien politics. The Grand Council Hall was the oldest part of the alien capital ship. Its walls were high and curved like a dome, built from black stone and shining silver veins. Blue lights glowed above the council seats, where 12 high-ranking officials waited. Each one had once bowed before Queen Valia. Now they looked down at her as if she were a stranger. Guards stood at the edges of the room, but their weapons were not raised. The situation was too delicate. The eyes of the crew were on them now. The entire ship had heard the Queen's message. No more hiding. Valia stood in the center of the circle. She wore her full gown now, no cloak to hide who she was. Callan stood quietly behind her. He had offered to wait outside, but she had asked him to stay. She wanted the council to see him too. The oldest counselor, Lord Menthar, rose from his seat. His skin was dark blue with white symbols across his face. His voice echoed. "Queen Valia, you were placed in stasis by vote of this council. You are not to be awakened without full approval. Explain this violation." Valia didn't flinch. I did not break the seal, it opened. Murmurs spread across the council seats. Impossible, another counselor said. Only those chosen by the old code could unlock that chamber. Violia turned slightly and gestured to Callan. He entered. A human. Unacceptable, Counselor Dren shouted. A human? A lower life form opened the sacred chamber? Callan stayed still. He didn't look angry, just focused. Valia's voice was calm but firm. You may not like the truth, but you cannot deny it. The chamber opened for him, and for him alone. It did not sound an alarm. It welcomed him. Even the crystals responded. The room went quiet. No alien, no council member has ever been able to open that door, Valia continued. But this human, this engineer, stepped in without fear, without lies, without desire for power, and the chamber accepted him. She looked directly at Lord Menthar. Why is that? She asked. He did not answer. I believe, she said, because he came not to take but to understand. Counselor Varric stood next. He was younger and less angry but still cautious. Even so, he said, your awakening changes everything. The balance of power, our alliances, our future, are already broken, Valia interrupted. You speak of balance, but for 12 years you built only silence. You feared my choices. You feared I would speak peace when you wanted control. You would have weakened us, Dren said. I would have saved us, Valia replied. Silence again. Then she walked slowly toward the center of the room. Her voice rose. I was your queen. I still am. But I return not for power. I return because your silence hurts more than your fear. You hide behind rules while our people lose hope. You hide from each other, from truth. She paused, looking at every counselor. This human risked everything to help me. He could have walked away. Instead, he stayed. He believed I deserved to be heard. And that is more than many of you ever did. Callan finally stepped forward. His voice was quiet but clear. I don't know your politics. I don't understand your laws. But I know what's right. And leaving someone like her locked away just because she might speak her mind, that's not justice. That's fear. Some counselors looked away. Others frowned. Valia continued. If you still believe I am unfit, then say it now. In front of your people. Let them hear your reasons. Let them see your fear. None of them spoke. Valia turned and began walking toward the hall's exit. I will not wait for chains. I will not beg for my crown. I will speak truth wherever I stand. And if you do not follow me, then your thrones are made of dust. She left the room without another word. Callan followed. The hallway outside was filled with crew members, engineers, technicians, and officers of all species. When Valia stepped out, they made a path. No one blocked her, no one stopped her, and slowly, one by one, they began to bow, not because of fear, but because of respect. News spread across the ship within hours. The Queen had returned. She had faced the Council without weapons. She had walked through shadows and fire, and she had not wavered. That night, Valia stood at the viewing deck. Stars glimmered outside the transparent walls. Callan stood beside her, sipping from a metal cup of warm tea. You didn't have to go with me, she said. I know, Callan replied. But you did. He smiled. Because someone needed to. Valia looked at him. I think the chamber chose well. I didn't do much, he said. I just didn't walk away. She placed her hand gently on the glass wall. That's what made the difference. They stood there in silence for a moment. Then she turned to him. Callan, may I ask you something? Of course. Would you stay? She asked. As an advisor, or maybe just someone I can trust? He didn't answer right away. He looked at her. Really looked. Not as a queen. Not as an alien. But as someone who had fought quietly and bravely. I'll stay, he said. Not because of the title, but because of who you are. She nodded. Outside, the stars continued to burn. Inside, hope had returned to a ship that once walked in silence, and all of it began because a human stepped into the one chamber no one else dared to enter.